Back.
Are we back? Yes, we are. Welcome back to Selling Frankston, guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Guys, I'm going to start this off straight away with a would you rather. I'm throwing a curveball in on that script that you've got there, Dad. Would you rather have a beach? So say you got a property. Would you rather have the beach at the end of the street or backing on to a golf course?
Ooh, depends on who you talk to.
I wasn't asking anyone else.
Look, put it this way. I'd like the beach. That's
like
me.
The beach?
Yeah. It'd be worth a hell of a lot more than if it backed onto a golf course. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. Now, would you rather sell 20 homes in a year or 5 homes at triple the value of the 20?
5.
Yeah. Less work. Is that
Less
what you're
work. What do they call it? What's the old adage? Work smart, not harder.
Oh, that's good. Now, in today's episode, guys, we're going to talk heavily about the market. There's a lot of people coming out saying a lot of things about the market. There's a lot of external factors. You got the war. You got a lot of uncertainty happening. What's really going on? So this time last year, Dad, how would you say the numbers have compared? Year on year versus, last year, April, just after Easter, it's pretty buoyant. We're meeting a lot of buyers.
Are you talking buyer through property? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Inquiry levels, buyers, that sort of level. We're not going to give an app exact, but how did you, just on feeling and based on what you're seeing?
Being in the trenches, Okay. I'll answer that question pretty straightforward. We are seeing certainly the higher end stock not as buoyant as in terms of numbers coming through. However, there's probably a lot less tire kickers. So the buyers that are actually out and about, they're more, they're pretty serious buyers.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are working towards a timeline.
Now, you said with higher end stock. Is that because obviously, Frankston South is 81% owner occupied. We're seeing a lot of that stock, people are upsizing, moving in the same market and trading in the same market. Would you say that that's keeping them active? Like you've got the serious ones for that reason?
There's certainly that. I also think that there's, we talk about the infrastructure that Frankston has and the amount of, new restaurants popping up, branded restaurants, that are well known. They're flocking in droves. So there's certainly the planning behind 3199 certainly, having a big say. And then you've got people that are cashing their chips in, whether it be in the eastern suburbs or in the Bayside belt, where they are now looking to move down this way and really get bang for their dollar. So,
Now, everyone asks, is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? Where do you sit?
That's a very good question, Josh.
Throwing you in the deep end on this.
Throw me right in the deep end. Look, if you look, a good barometer is always the auction clearance rate for Melbourne or Sydney. They're predominantly a lot of auctions. At the moment, we're tracking, you would say it's a buyer's market. Usually anything over 70% is a seller market. So when properties go to auction, 7 out of 10 on the day of the proposed auction date, they've sold. And you'll find most of those properties, even if they didn't sell at auction, afterwards they're selling. There's certainly, in my opinion, probably up around the metro part of Melbourne, it's certainly slowed up a bit. Down this way, we're still finding the clearance rates here in 3199 is still pretty high.
They're still really good.
They're still really good.
And even if properties are passing in, they're selling after.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen that. We've had properties where they didn't sell on the day, but they got offers and they had genuine interest right there and then, offers straight after. The owner said no. For whatever reason, that's up to them. But there's still activity, which is really good. So to answer that question, Josh, in a nutshell, down here in 3199, I would say that the market hasn't, it's risen quite substantially in the last 12 months. We've seen that in the statistics, but I still think that it's plateaued. It's sort of, it hasn't dropped. Whereas in some other areas in around Melbourne, and we're dealing with clients and we're helping them purchase, we're able to get them below market value. So
there's a lot of agents uptown that keep saying it's some of the best city buying climate.
Absolutely.
Which does make sense. If you've got, properties, multi-million-dollar properties, they're just sitting on the market, price reduction. struggling to get, one or two people walking through. So it does make a lot of sense. Do you
Well,
think
yeah.
the war and the cash rate has had obviously the cash rate has it's a big lever.
Yeah. Well, that cash rate always, it's reflective to inflation. One of the biggest things that, if you look at, some of the well-known podcasts, and Mark Boris, he's, fame of Yellow Brick Road. He's mentioned it quite a lot of times with the inflation side of things, how when inflation does go up and the figures don't come in and stack up, the first thing the government will do is crank up their cash rate, and then the banks pass it on. The inflation, it's interesting because we always know pre-Christmas, everyone goes to buy. We know seasonal spending is massive just before Christmas. So, the biggest problem that we have had is, especially here in Victoria, but federally, under the current government of Labor, there's been a lot of jobs that have been opened up by the government. And when they're spending a lot of money, that's where, inflation is going to rise. So I think that's certainly had an impact in certain pockets.
Yeah.
I think the war in Iran and the US and the Strait of Hormuz, that's certainly affecting some people, and there's a little bit of uncertainty.
There's people holding back just with, like you said, with the cash rate. The sellers out there that go, you know what, we were going to upsize, we were going to move and do all these things, but then they're looking at it going, you know what, even though I think it's a fantastic time underneath that $1 million mark to be selling, because it is so government backed. You've got the first home buyer scheme, you got so much infrastructure, like you said, in Frankston. So you got so much downsizing happening, and then you've still got investors. Buyers agents are still sending lots of briefs and all these sorts of things.
I think the buyer agents at the moment, I think they're more looking for land that's got potential to they'll land bank, and then down the track they'll do something. And those investors are coming in from Sydney and abroad, which is good.
They're still looking for those three or 4 bedroom. If they can find turnkey, renovated homes, they will go after them. But then some love the original condition, just good land size, so that they can add a bit more value. Well,
the turnkey homes at the moment, if it's priced right and it's turnkey, we know that with the petrol crisis that we have had at the moment and that we're going through, and I think everyone's
I saw petrol was like $1.80 yesterday.
Yeah, it's been weird. I drive. I drive
not for a diesel. Sorry,
for
I shouldn't
diesel.
say that.
We've been hovering around $3. So,
did you see LMCT Adrian Platelli opening up a
petrol station
up in Preston, and for his members $1 petrol.
Yeah. Incredible.
That's incredible. I don't know what the membership is like, but
good on Adrian.
Yeah. Would you say, so based on that, the buyer sort of the buyers that are coming through, like you said, there's no real tie kickers anymore. It's more those real serious ones.
Look, for those sellers out there, and it's interesting, we sit in people's lounge rooms and they'll say, we only want to deal with the hot buyers, and that's all good and well. But sometimes when you do an open for inspection, you'll have neighbours that could be, on reflection, they're looking at, doing a bit of research in the area to see what the property that's on the market, how well it's received, how well it's presented, so that they can compare their home with that one. Yep. Now, you'll still get the odd one of the neighbours coming through. We saw a mad rush, over the last couple of years where people would be coming out and just going for it. And there'd be people that even now we've spoken to a few buyers that, we're still looking. And I'm like, 6 months ago, you looked at these homes, and if anything, the market's still going up. And why don't you transact? Have you made any offers? Oh, no. So there's buyers that certainly can waste your time, but then there's buyers that are actually working to a time frame, whereas, they had limited time.
They've got a settlement.
They've got limited time now to purchase. Yeah. They've either been told by a rental manager, hey, the owner's selling the rental property, you need to be out. So they are now got all their stuff through the banks. They're now purchasing, whereas before they were sort of lukewarm. So I still think anything under $1 million is still going very well.
Yeah. I would say as well, some of those serious buyers are starting to take a little bit. They've got more variety. There's more coming on, so they are taking a little bit longer. They might see a couple more homes than previously before, that fear of missing out would kick in. They'd go, you know what, we've got clear motivation. There's competition instantly on the first weekend, and they've got to act very, very quickly. And
it's funny you say that, Josh, because what we find, and I know that there's other agents in our LGA that does it, but what we find is with an auction, it really puts pressure on the buyers to make a decision. I've had it where we
It was me for the first time of a notification. Sorry to cut it short. Did you hear the boom?
Yeah, I heard that.
That was me.
With regards to auction campaigns, what we're finding is there's still urgency there. When you put a timeline on it, it goes really well, and it's working very well in our LGA. We had a situation not long ago where, and generally I know other agents have said, one, we're on the other end of the stick, and we had a buyer that was like, we're dealing with them. Guys want to make an offer, and they said, we're just gonna wait for that one down the road. We're gonna go to that auction on Saturday in 2 weeks' time, and I'm sitting there going, hey, you for real? Like, why don't you make a play? Because once that sells, then all the competition is going to come back, and we could get at this present time we don't have anyone, but all of a sudden once one makes a play, another one makes a play, then all of a sudden there's competition, and guess what?
I just think in any market for any buyer, if you're inviting the competition.
Yeah.
It was actually really, I was going to ask you, would you rather buy off market with no competition or buy on market and know what else everyone else was going to pay? And
off market, without doubt.
Correct. So you want to not have the competition.
Yeah.
But
if you all got off market and there's only you and the owner that you're negotiating with, that's the best case scenario, because one, they're going to save money on their marketing costs for when they sell, but two, you're not having that competition with, the agent saying, hey, I've got another buyer, they've now increased their offer, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden what you thought you were going to get is now out of the question. So these are the things that... Yeah.
It's really interesting because we sell a lot of our, 63% of our homes are auction.
Yep.
But now think about it. If everyone went down the mantra of actually not inviting the competition, it'd put us out of a job.
Well,
not really. I'm joking.
We wouldn't be out of a job. We could easily facilitate that. We sold one off market and got a great result there. But interesting though, I firmly believe if we did that with the majority of those properties that went to auction and we sold them off market based on the reserve price, and I'll ask you this question, Josh, and I think I'll know the answer. Where do you reckon
you wouldn't get as much?
We wouldn't have got as much. So what I always say to people when we're selling a property is, if you look at the Olympics, sports, for a good example, right? Whether it be, F1, F1 or, the World Olympic Games, right? Olympic Games and world records always get smashed at Olympics because the highest and best standard is set there, right? Now, if you want to take away and go, oh, look, I just want to swim in the pool and I'll swim by myself and see how we go, you're pushing yourself, but is it going to be the best price, or is it going to get the best time? Yeah. People trial out on F1. They have pole position.
Pole position Monaco style.
Yeah.
You're not getting past anyone. If you're in pole.
If you're in pole in Monaco, you've got it locked away, right? Yeah. So everyone is gunning in practice to be P1, they want P1. They want to be there. Now, if as an owner, if you're putting yourself, and I often say that to an owner, if we price your property based on, say, and I've used this as an example. Say our competitor, they've given you a price, and you've arrived at that figure. If you were to start a race, and we had the identical home, right? So agent X, I don't know who it is, but there's me, and I say, okay, so this agent's going to advertise your property at this price, and I'm advertising it at where the market sees it. Do you reckon we're going to sell your property before the other guy? And generally speaking, they'll say, yeah. I'll say, how many offers do you reckon I'll get on this at this price versus that? Because there's a vast difference. It could be, in some cases, 150 to 200 grand difference in price. I said, but the biggest difference is, and I say this often, your first 2 weeks of a campaign is the most important. So if you start too high and then you've got to drop your price, the first thing a buyer says is, what's wrong with that property?
Yeah, or they can, like we talk about all the time, the visibility online.
A visibility
You've
online.
got your position. Every other
Look under
buyer
the hood.
can see.
We can see what's going on. So yeah. So I answer that question, Josh. I think. What was the question again? We've ranted on. Sorry, Josh.
I think you told everyone about three different things.
Yeah.
To answer that one question, I think I asked you if you've got the serious buyers or the tire kickers, and you've answered.
I've answered it and gone down a bit of a
rabbit warren, but we got there in the end. Now
there.
because we've been talking a lot under the $1 million that it's still very buoyant. Do you think that it's the same level as it was this time last year under 900,000?
I still think, look, it's not as buoyant as strong because you got to remember anything under 900. There was still property selling this time last year that were advertised 695 to 750, and they were selling for 900. Because the prices have gone up, the price and the advertised price has to match that.
Yeah.
So does it make sense? So what happens is when you got a 695 to 750 price and prices were going for 900, now there's nothing under. You can't be advertising something with a 6 in it when you know that the market's there. Does it make sense? So you're moving the range up. Is there as many buyers? The answer is no, but there is still quality and properties getting sold for good prices.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in terms of auction versus private sale, how have you found the numbers over the last year?
Numbers,
not in terms of like our clearance rate's 97%. It's very, very strong. But in terms of the foot traffic that's
foot traffic.
Through.
Okay, so foot traffic and actually eyeballs on screens, auctions far outweigh and perform substantially higher than private sales by a mile.
Well, we're seeing when the market is a little bit uncertain and people are very tentative, if there's something, there's a house that they actually like, having a time frame, having a bit of a deadline to say, hey, this is when, for the auction, hey, this is where you got to be. You got to get your due diligence all organised for this day. They'll come after it. We saw that prime example. We had a beautiful property, a brand new build on Catherine Parade. The foot traffic wasn't that great. We talked about it. We probably should have had, between maybe 40 and 50 groups just on the basis, if we had it this time last year, just on the basis of the actual property.
Yep.
We had 12 groups until the auction day, and then we had 5, people, but there was only genuinely 2 buyers that came through on that.
And as an auctioneer, all you need is one because you can bid and then pass it in on that buyer or say it's on the market. Get them to increase above the reserve online. So these are the tactics that we use as auctioneers. And that's why I say to people, look, as from a seller's perspective, if you go to an auction, all you need is one person. And if we can strategically pass it in half time, we've got a buyer there. Say, for example, the reserve's 950. They've made a play at 950. We'll say, we're quoting 950 to a 1040. $1 million, the buyers would be thinking, oh, that's what the owners want. Yeah. And what you could do is easily go in and say, well, this is what we need to do, and go from there.
You got a few calls coming in. It's a good problem. When it comes to private sale and auction, how are you finding private sales versus an auction more or less with, do you think that they're getting the same prices? What would you say?
Just
right. In a meeting. In a meeting, very important, cannot answer.
Can't answer. Sorry.
Unless it's serious. I mean, if there's multiple. Are you seeing that private sales, would you say they're getting the same prices as an auction is in this climate?
No. I would say that when you have, the only time a private sale will get that sort of great price is when there's multiple parties and it's a very short campaign. So we're talking 2 weeks. Yeah. Anything north of 2 weeks, you're finding that prices, you're slowly decreasing, bit by bit, your sale price. Auctions, 4 weeks turnaround. The buyers are there. Any buyer that's been looking for the last 6 to 8 weeks, they'll see your property pop up. The other good thing that you want to make sure when you go to auction is it a property that's going to be in demand? Is the location correct? Is it near schools? Is it in the right zones? All these things make a play. So if you've got something that's special, it's important to be able to capitalise on that. Yeah.
Maybe check Mum's thing. I don't know if she's tried to call me multiple times. I don't know if that was what that was.
Yeah.
We're going to take a little pause. We're going to talk about a property that we've just launched and listed, 14 Gregory Avenue, Frankston South. We're doing a little bit of a plug here. Jump online, pretty much brand new build, finished 2023. Absolutely stunning. It is a property that is going to be very hotly contested. We've got that 1495 to 1595. Beautiful home in the Frankston High School area, tucked away off Lawson Avenue there, and you're very, very close to the Frankston Reservoir. You're only probably a 3-minute walk away, and then you've got the beautiful 5-kilometre trail that you can run around and have a bit of fun with. So I think that's going to be a cracker. First open this Saturday 1 p.m.
1 p.m. And for those people that don't know, this podcast is coming up. We've got Anzac Day on Saturday. And it's very, disrespectful. And I'll be honest, I'm going to call some of my agents out. Prior to 1 o'clock, you're not supposed to do any work. So it's a Remembrance Day. We've seen at the moment there's some agents that are opening up properties at 10:30, 11 o'clock.
No, name and shame them. No, I'm joking. Don't.
It's so I'd say. Pardon me. There's 95%. I would say everyone's doing the right thing. So after 1 o'clock, we're doing opens and we're doing inspections because it's Saturday. Football's on. People are still playing football. Local football's going. It's going to be a big day. You got the big clash with Essendon versus Collingwood.
It's going to be a disappointing day, I reckon.
Yeah, for us it will be, being Bombers.
I'm a Bombers supporter, yes. Yeah. I'm going to say we're Bombers. It's not going to – this is – you know how we just got really deflated if you're watching this? If you're not listening on Spotify, you'll be like, oh, gee, these guys, you can tell they're Bombers fans.
But, the dawn services is always a big thing. Remember, you go up to the city or, even your local council down here in Frankston, they do a terrific job with the Frankston RSL. They get, diggers that are there. They'll do the dawn service. I think it starts at 5 o'clock. I'll be down there. It's right near Beauty Park. And there's, literally there's thousands of people that go down and watch it and pay their respects. And I think it's important as patriotic. I mean, I'm patriotic Australian. I firmly believe that, we've got to make Australia great again. There's no doubt about it. And, from my perspective, my dad came from Spain. Could have said, "Hey, play football," which is if you talk to a European, you say you play football. It's soccer. We had a soccer ball, but he wanted us to assimilate. We played Aussie rules. He loved it. He loved us playing Australian rules. He really endorsed that. I've to me, it's important to immerse yourself in the culture that is Australian, and that's so important.
Question.
Yep.
If you had your time again, would you play soccer or would you play footy?
Soccer.
Why?
Because there's a lot more money involved.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was sitting here going, hold on. You got the highest paid players in the AFL earning $2 million, and you've got Cristiano Ronaldo. And I mean, they're your unicorn.
Look, there's unicorns. Look, I know. Look, I think professional sport on all fronts is quite a especially in this day and age. And we see it as real estate agents. I mean, we can get potted every day of the week we get potted on these podcasts. Little snippets on our page. People, will pick us on our
clipping us.
Yeah, they'll clip
who
us.
cares?
People you can always have haters, but in this day and age, it's a fishbowl that you're in. The AFL, you look at poor Elijah Holland, that mental health.
Yeah, I think that's really
and unfortunately, like you look at the footage, as a coach, under the AFL code of conduct as a coach, you have a player responsibility with their welfare. And
I think I get it, but these guys are paid.
Yeah,
players.
they're paid players.
There's betting and there's a lot of things on the line absolutely. For a lot of people. So the only reason I agree, I think it's horrible. I think, you send for the family on the Hollands family and you hope that Elijah's okay and gets well. I don't think they should be going after the club. I think
the club's been, look, the club won't, look, ultimately you've got to understand, unlike the EPL.
Well, Ben Cousins, let's play this
let's stick to the facts here. The AFL will not allow Carlton to cop a rap. There's no doubt about it because it's a conflict of interest. The AFL own each and every AFL club.
Correct.
I'm not sure if you know that. Yeah. So the fact is, they might say, in the media, and the media is saying, Carlton could be up and there's work safe now looking into it. I firmly believe at the end of the day, the poor guy's had he's had a shocker on the ground.
I'm going to put it like this. If he had
He had
4
a
goals
man.
and 40 disposals, would we be having this conversation?
No. And there's been people
And that's
that
even more disappointing because he's actually going through this.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. There's been known facts that there's been players that have been on, illicit drugs that have performed incredibly well, and no one knew about it because their performance was still at a very consistent level.
There's going to be 1% that are a bit astray.
I don't know about Cousins. You don't want to sort of – Benny Cousins was
I'm just saying I'm just going off what he literally said. He was playing football, going at a high level to then annihilate himself after the game. Well, I'm just saying
But what I was saying was there's footballers – I know for a fact that there's been footballers that have been playing that are on – amphetamines to get them pumped so that they run through brick walls. I don't think Cousins did that.
I'm not saying Cousins did that. But stop insinuating I've said that.
I'm not saying that.
I don't want Ben Cousins cracking the shits.
Yeah, no, Ben Cousins, good luck. He's turned his whole life around. Fantastic. What a role model. But unfortunately, there's a lot of drugs in our society. And what I'm saying is when you've got people that can play football and most footballers are playing with a bit of pain, right? If you're getting paid, there's a certain responsibility on you to perform. And there's going to be no doubt in my mind, there's been people that have taken some extra curriculum to help them get up and play at a better level. So I'm just saying not every single footballer does it. I'm just saying there's been a few that have been, it's gone under the radar. But I think from a fishbowl perspective, and I think getting back to being a professional sports person, it's a very, very difficult situation they're in right now. I firmly believe anyone right now, if you've got a phone, you can be a journalist, you can be a commentator, and you can,
or you could be a podcast host like us. No, I'm joking.
You could be a podcast. But what I'm saying is, these poor guys, they are looked at. Everything is microscopic looked at to the point where, mate, they do a wrong thing, or I've heard. I heard a bloke say, one of the guys at the local footy club, he said, I was one possession off from getting like a multi that was going to pay him $30,000, and he was furious. So he literally DM'd the player that didn't get the possessions that he needed and told him that he should go kill himself. I mean, it was joking matter, but is that real? Like, that poor bloke's had a shit night. Should have got his 10 touches, didn't. And now one bloke's potted him because he was off 30 grand. And this is where I will say this. I do not agree with betting in sports. I fucking don't. I'm sorry. It pisses me off. It goats me because you know why? They say gamble responsibly after every advert, right?
Is this the time to bring up the...
No, it's not. Anyway, we've gone on a bit. But I'm just saying it's not right because now everyone is a commentator. Everyone's a professional punter, and when they don't get it, they're going to pot the person that stopped them.
Well, I think the only person, it's no different to anything, is someone who's on the ground and doing it. I think if you're going to talk about being an AFL player and being in the limelight, you probably should have been. The only people that I will take word on are the people that have actually played and been in the system. They've come out and talking about the pressures and everything to do with different clubs and how what we talk about is every agency is different. Every club is different. So you can't go off what one club does is another. They're all AFL bound, but then they need to then implement a protocol system so that, hey, the player welfare is looked after. Yes, they're paid. The pressure comes with it though, which is immense. So what you just said.
I think, and I want to talk about, you talk about mental health and, within our industry in real estate, we're in a high pressure cooker. We're in a high pressure situations, and there are some people that have been agents and unfortunately they've taken their own lives and you wouldn't have known. They're smiling, happy, everything's happy. I think in this day and age, mental health is a really big thing. So people that are smiling on the outside are struggling inside. I think it's important to understand that your agent, your sports person, they're just humans.
I think everyone. Yeah, but even hey, the haters, you're actually gonna probably make it better for us. So keep hating, keep doing what you're doing. But I will say this: have a bit of faith, have a bit of a heart, and understand that everyone's human, that everyone makes mistakes, and it's not all about he said, she said. Hey, if everyone's giving it a crack, we've all got the devices, we've all got the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Just be a good human. That's not hard.
It's not hard. And that's where, it comes back to just treat people the way you want to be treated. And if I always say this, and I'm fortunate, if someone is to, treat us with disdain or whatever, through an open for inspection, we'll give them, an opportunity.
Return.
We'll
We'll be nice about it, but if you
we'll
want
be nice,
to be,
but we'll be very diplomatic. But we're not. Look, there's people that I know that work for franchises and they would love nothing, and you do see that. I think there was that guy who was from Ray White.
That's different.
That poor guy. Oh, he got fired.
But that's a lack of you can't go and I don't think you can anyone like we talk about be a good human. That's not regardless. He could have easily confronted it in maybe a better way.
He could have done it better, but this lady apparently
maybe.
she was blowing the whip, and he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to sell next door," and she had a problem with him because she felt that she paid. But look, at the end of the day, there's a way to do things. So
I'd just say that the guy, if someone cracked it about how much noise the person next door was making, I'd just say, they love their gardens and they make sure it looks Mickey Mouse and they're helping the value of the street.
Yeah.
It's not rocket. You know what I mean? He clearly had there was clearly a problem there.
There was a problem,
That's
and how he handled it.
Anyway, let's
on.
move on quickly.
Yep.
Since obviously 2025,
yep,
you get really, really damn good prices. Do you think you can still achieve that in this market?
Absolutely. Yep.
And what does a great result look like? Let's break it down. What does a great result look like from a campaign perspective for an owner?
Numbers wise, I would say 40 plus groups through a 4-week campaign. So if you're averaging over 10 groups, huge. If you have over, 6,000 views online on realestate.com. So we're saying listing views, that's extraordinary in a 4-week campaign.
Yeah. And multiple offers.
And multiple offers and multiple parties registered. So we register our bidders. So when we know that we're coming into the last week, we're sitting down, we're itemizing where things are at. And we can sit with confidence and say, guys, this is where you're at.
This is the fun week. And you know what the beautiful thing about artificial intelligence, and I know a lot of people not steer clear from the conversation, but it definitely is helping us with our data. Like it's helping us with the metrics, the ability to know where the buyers are coming from, all the different things that it's doing nowadays, and the ability to communicate that and pass that on to any seller that is looking to sell. The data, we always say the data tells story. The data is going to tell, but then sales sell. I think you've got to, there's people aren't going to be replaced all that much, but I think the productivity and from a data perspective, it's fantastic if people are harnessing it.
And the best thing that I say to people is, like I had a good conversation with a buyer that went through over the weekend, and it was funny because he went through the property, and you'll get people that say this and they'll say, oh, look, by the way, we don't want it. We don't want you to follow us up. We don't want it. We're not, we're giving you our number, but we don't want you to call us. And as he was going through the home, I had a chat to him and I said, look, can I just ask a question? I know you're probably going through, how many homes have you been through today? And this is our 6th home and, we're just getting bombarded by these agents. And I'm like, well, can I ask a question? Like, are you wanting to buy a property? And they go, yeah. And I said, well, you do know that we do get properties listed before they go online? Because he was like, oh, I'm waiting for them to go online. I'm like, yeah, but did you know that there are some properties that are selling prior to going online?
Can I ask this, and for anyone out there that is listening to this, before a property goes online, it has been listed.
Correct.
So usually agents are being proactive. If you're a good agent, you will proactively follow up a buyer, i.e. I had some great conversations yesterday about a property we've got listed for Violet Street, and I've said, hey, just flagging a property that might be of interest. Yep. Now, whether or not the agent takes that buyer through specifically straight away are two different things. Yep. It's creating the competition as a good agent, but it's also serving the buyer and making sure they get the opportunity.
Correct. And the anticipation's there as well. So it's all set up. But what we're seeing is, we don't want to be honest, and I said to the guy, I said, look, you know what? I'll be honest, when I first got into real estate, the first thing the business owners would say, each and every one of you have to sit at a desk and make all your calls. And if you haven't made all your calls and you haven't hit them, you stay here until you do that. Now,
You still do that with me.
yeah, I do.
No, I'm joking.
I used to, but now
Tables have turned.
No, I still believe in the mantra of making sure you hit the hot one. So you contact those people that are looking to transact, whether they're going to be thinking about it over dinner. They could be getting the floor plan out, putting the video on, having a look at YouTube, looking at the particular properties and starting to visualize and manifest what they wanted to do, and then talk about where they want to start price-wise, etc. So we already, you engage with them. But with
the cash rate changing and all these things happening and pre-approvals lapsing, servicing is going down. People are changing. Yeah. They're changing their mind on their budgets. So keeping up to date with them is something that we always do. And we do. Make sure
but the best thing is, and I did say to this guy, and I've said it, I'll be upfront. If someone has come through our property and they are, remotely not even interested, and we've contacted them, to be upfront, to have, I call it dead wood, to have those people sitting in your database that are inactive, they don't want to take calls. When we do call them, they abuse us, or no, I'm busy, can't take your call. Well, to me, that's fine. We'll just put you on the do not register list, which we do.
You'd almost rather, it sounds bad, and we do it. We've done it sometimes. We want to deal with people that want to be dealt with, right?
Yeah, correct.
If you're not wanting to be dealt with, hey, you can come through the open home. I will grab your details, and then I probably will delete you because there's no point. And then if you do come back through an open home, I had this situation literally over the weekend.
Yep.
And I mean, the reason that person was deleted is because every time they came through the property, they'd just negatively talk about it out loud in front of every buyer. And you're kind of at the point where you're going, you're just a smoke show. You'll talk a big game, and then you'll shit on the property, and then you'll. He called me, and just on another. Right. He called said that apparently I'm a fascist because I haven't done enough research into my history, and I got called because I've got the Nazi haircut. But that's what he said.
This is once again.
That's not how to make friends with the real estate agent. I can tell you that, guys.
Once again, like this is how stupid some people are. Like he's labelled you something that realistically in today's day and age that they don't want.
That was discrimination.
It's discrimination.
And then you said your generation, so it doesn't do enough on history. And it's like,
well, you know what?
Hear me out on this. I'll tell you what I'll do now, because I know if he ever actually does like a property, I'll make sure that he bids. And the person who actually is really likable, they can have the next.
Well,
bid.
put it this way, and I'll even go a step further. I would authorise you if he was being derogative in the property, and I've had this happen before where a buyer's come in, and I know the reason why they're doing it. They were just bagging the property out so that other buyers that were maybe interested walked away. I would go straight up and I quietly said, "Excuse me, I'd like you to refrain from your comments." And this person went at me, and I turned around and I said, "Listen, I'm the agent. I'm working on my best interest of my owners. Please leave." And they kept going. You know what I told them? Fuck off. Get out. And they said, "How can you talk? I want to talk to the boss." And I said, "I am the boss. I'm here to manage my clients' expectations and get them the best price. You're making it very difficult and you're making a scene. I want you off the property right now, and I've got every right to do that. You're disrupting it." No different to if you have an auction. If someone's trying to disrupt an auction, there are fines and so forth in there, right?
In the agency agreement.
Just listen, I'm saying to you straight down the camera, if someone was to do that to your property, and I always push it back onto them and say, "Hey, would you do this?" Imagine if
roles reversed.
Would you be feeling that the agent should be doing this, and actually backing you up? Because we don't get paid until we sell the owner's property. But having this sort of behaviour, it's not on. And as far as I'm concerned, agents constantly, and I've spoken to a lot of agents in town. I told you clearly what I would have done if that guy had said that. In future, you just say, "Mate, we don't want you in this house." And if you want to go through the house, it's by appointment only. No one else inside.
I think more or less, you can't control who rocks up to the open home. Obviously, you can refuse entry. The one thing that I do look at,
you can control the vibe in the house.
Yeah, you definitely can. But obviously, if someone's walking through and it's a big property and they're just starting to nitpick at everything. You can't. You can obviously go up to them and say, "Hey, obviously I'm selling the owner's house. Like that is a fact. I'm here for the best interest. Hold on, I've flipped it on them. Would you want us to do that? Would you want to buy if you had buyers walking through your house when you're selling? Would you want a buyer to be doing that? No. So treat others how you want to be treated.
Once again, treat people the way you want to be treated. I have people that have foot mouth disease, and I get that, but understand, show some respect to the owner's home. They've prepared it. They've done everything. It may not be what you want, but don't verbalize it to other people. You're a dickhead if you do that.
Okay, no more dickhead words.
Sorry,
we got to
scrap that. We're on Spotify now, and we're getting. Yeah, sorry, I better.
If we ever want to monetize this, it's down the drain.
We're gonna have to beep it. Yep,
we'll just beep it out. But that summarizes. If you are looking to sell, the market is very, very
still
active.
very good.
Very, very good. You've got serious buyers. The unserious ones, the tire kickers, they have shipped off.
Yep.
And you've got the war and all these things happening. But guys, there's a lot of variety out there for buyers. Buyers, if you're not taking action, you're just going to invite competition. Because I can guarantee you, when this uncertainty all fizzles out, there's going to be a lot more people coming after property.
And we've seen this storyline about 6 years ago when everyone said, "Oh, we're cautious." What we do know is rental market is so thin at the moment that people are looking, going, where do we live? We want to live near our schools, so people are now going, we're going to have to buy. So I firmly believe for those who are going to be cautious, it's going to be a costly mistake. Those ones who need to transact, do that with confidence, knowing down the track things are always going to work out well.
Yeah. And guys, hit us up if you want any information about the 2030 Frankston plan, the Major Activity Centre plan, sorry. There's a lot of change and a lot of shifting happening in the Frankston market at the moment, and we can't wait for what's next. We can't wait to see you in the next episode. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and give us a follow on Spotify and drop any comments with any questions if you have any. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.